So I wanted to share with you my personal story from when I first started homeschooling my kids. It was 2009 and they were in middle school. We had just returned to Florida from 3 years in Vancouver, British Columbia, where they have an outstanding educational system and full inclusion for students with special needs. So when we came back to Florida, I couldn't see putting my twins into a very daunting and depressing self-contained classroom environment after having been in such a great environment in Canada. So I made the decision to homeschool. The first thing that I did was gather my materials, and I'm a big geek about that stuff. I have a lot of fun with it, so that was the fun part. And then I kind of started to plan what an average day would look like. And I had volunteered in my son's classrooms for years, probably hundreds of hours, so I felt like I had a pretty good handle on what a typical day would look like. What I discovered, much to my surprise, is that we finished our work really early. And what I came to realize later when I did my student teaching and later worked in classrooms for my degree in special education is that a typical school day lasts between 6 to 8 hours. But you can get that same amount of academic work and activity done in about 2 to 3 hours in a homeschool environment. And there are several reasons for that. Okay, so let's talk about reasons why a homeschool day is much shorter than a typical school day. The first is the administrative workload. In elementary school, a teacher's responsibilities include things like taking attendance, lunch counts, assemblies, processing homework, fire drills, collecting sign forms for every imaginable reason, and any number of other things that come up throughout the day. And there are similar tasks in high school, although they tend to be spread out among several teachers and class periods. So administrative workload is one thing that makes a typical school day longer. Distractions also contribute to longer, more drawn-out days. Whether in a typical classroom of 20 to 30 students or a self-contained classroom with 5 to 10 students, there will always be things that take time out of the schedule. It might be group bathroom breaks in elementary school or discipline issues at any grade level. The presence of other people and the sensory overload in most classes have a big impact on the ability to focus and attend to a task for kids and adults on the autism spectrum. Another huge time constraint in school settings is standardized testing. You would be astonished at the amount of time that goes into teaching to the test and preparing students for testing. In many states, these tests are high stakes and can mean the difference between advancing a grade, funding for a school, or evaluation of a teacher. Depending on the type of diploma that your child is pursuing, they may or may not need to take standardized tests. Interestingly, private school students aren't required to adhere to these standards, although some private schools choose to do so. Finally, as a homeschooling parent, you don't have to worry about differentiating lessons for a variety of learning styles. And what this means is that in any given classroom, students will be at different places academically, socially, and emotionally. Some teachers will try to group students by abilities so that they can provide more efficient and effective instruction. I can tell you from personal experience that tailoring the curriculum to my 3 learners in homeschool was much easier than trying to tailor it to multiple kids in a typical classroom. Now, just because you can complete academic work in a shorter amount of time doesn't mean that you want a lot of idle hours in the day. You'll still want to offer and plan activities to keep your student meaningfully engaged and productive. So hopefully this is helpful for you as you begin to set up your own homeschool program. Trust your instincts and keep doing what's right for you and your family. Next, we're going to talk about virtual school and whether that's a viable option for you and your family.